John Dean.
And I'm Patty O'Regan.
Welcome to our first episode in Classroom Connection, a program dedicated to news and views from the Metropolitan Separate School Board.
Stay with us as we discuss current education issues and highlight the talents of our students and staff.
You know, Patty, this is a perfect time to focus on Catholic education in Metro. 1993 marks the 40th anniversary of the Metropolitan Separate School Board, and we've got a lot to celebrate.
40 years doesn't really seem like a long time, John, but in those 4 short decades, our board has grown to serve 103,000 students in 228 schools across Metro.
We'll be taking a look at the issues and the people who shaped our board during that time. Remember to stay tuned to Classroom Connection each month as we explore the Metropolitan Separate School Board together.
Speaking of exploring, let's take a quick look inside one of the 37 high schools operated by our board.
Welcome back. Today we'd like to focus on an issue that has concerned many in our school communities, namely the safety of students and staff. With me in the studio today is Tom Donovan, Superintendent of Secondary Schools. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, John.
Tom, you've been involved in the formulation of the Safe School Policy for the Metropolitan Separate School Board. Would you tell us just exactly what the board is doing to ensure the safety of our students and staff?
Thank you, John. Let me begin by saying that we all recognize that safety is an important issue. It's important to the parents, it's important to the students, it's important to the staff, and it's important to the board. There were some actions that were taken as a result of our report, and some of those would take immediate effect, and some of them I would categorize as perhaps taking a little longer to take effect. With respect to those immediate actions, to deal with violent issues as they are occurring in our schools occasionally, there was seen to be a need to increase the maximum length of suspension, and that in fact was doubled to give the message that we would not tolerate violence in the schools. The other was to indicate in the policy itself clearly the consequences for students and any other members of the MSSB community and or intruders in the school as to what the consequences for violent actions would be. And
so these were the immediate actions that you took. And you mentioned that they were longer range as well.
There are several others that I think will take, that will take a little longer for us to see the effects of them. One of those was with respect to supervision of athletic events and extracurriculars, and that is an ongoing situation that we are dealing with. Another one that we started this year in September of '93 was the Student Safe School Task Force, where we encouraged all elementary school students and all secondary school students to take on a project that they felt would be their project with respect to keeping their own school safe. And that, I think, has had positive effects. Another one is in liaising with the community, and particularly in this area is with the police department. And we have had the police department into all of our high schools, and it's the street crime unit that comes into the school, talks to the students, and identifies for them the issues and the consequences.
What is unusual about this street crime? Are they the ordinary police, or their special task force? Or?
This is part of a special task force that deals with youth, and they come in plain clothes, they talk to the students, and there are, in fact, officers that are associated with each school, so that if there are incidents that occur in a school, you have a direct line to the police department, and it's worked, it's been very effective. Other areas that are of interest in terms of the longer range would be the conflict resolution programs that we've initiated, and also the conflict mediation programs. Now, there is a little bit of a difference between the two. The conflict resolution is how individuals would resolve conflict with one another. Conflict mediation involves a third party mediating. And those have been established in both our elementary and secondary schools. And I think educationally, it'll take us a little bit of time to see the results of those two programs in particular. But that I think, offers us a very great opportunity to be involved in the education of students and in ways of resolving conflict. I could see many more initiatives taking place with respect to the curriculum, almost in terms of a personal life management approach to resolving conflict. So those are some of the areas that we've been addressing.
Now, that sounds remarkable. There are quite a number of initiatives there. What about the parents? Just exactly what could they do to be helpful here?
Well, I think the parents play a key role, as I would always say they play. In this particular issue, they might play a role two ways. One, in terms of being the prime educator of their sons and daughters, is to act as role models for their sons and daughters. And the way a young person sees their own parents resolving conflict, I think that's got a great deal to say about how they themselves are going to resolve conflict. I think the other area that's important is for parents to recognize that, in fact, we do have a policy like this in place. We do have these codes of behavior in each of our high schools and elementary schools, and to recognize that we want the parents' input and we want their support in trying to resolve this issue. And so we can't do it alone. I think it's very important for the parents to have a very active participation with the school in developing the way we see these programs go.
Now, there's another player here, Tom, I'd like to put a question to you about, and that's the media. Has the media itself had any effect on the public perception of safety in schools?
Well, I'd hesitate to say that the media has over-exaggerated the situation, but in fact, I think that may be the case. I see the situations in schools as being very isolated incidents. We do not have a lot of major incidents with respect to violence in schools. And yet the public perception is that these are, I'd hesitate to say rampant, but that they are on a dramatic increase. And I'm not sure if that's quite the case. Through the Student Safe School Task Force that I mentioned, we have highlighted to the media all of the things going on in schools. And I think what we'd like to see is a much more balanced approach in highlighting the good things that are going on in schools and giving out the good news as well. And then I think the public would receive a much different picture, if you like, of schools.
I'd just like to reinforce that very briefly. And I'm sure you would agree that in any of our schools, there may be 95% of the students who are well-behaved, well-groomed, on task, and very diligent. And there are a few high-need students, and they are problematic. I would also say that most often what we deal with is our intruders. So I certainly agree with you that we're dealing here with isolated incidents and not a widespread phenomenon.
Yeah, well, I would agree. The other, you just made me think of another area with respect to media, too, and I think we have to take a little bit of a look at violence as it is depicted on television.
Oh, yes.
And in terms of primetime viewing, I think that the lessons that young people learn, I think we have to be very careful of what's portrayed as regular everyday life in society.
Absolutely. The gratuitous violence, can't see it. Well, Tom, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, John.
Tom mentioned peer mediation, conflict resolution, and peace education as ways to prevent or settle conflict among students and staff. Let's join Patty at Blessed Kateri Tekakwitha Catholic School in North York and see how one school community fosters harmony.
Tell me this. How do you feel when you're a peacemaker? How do you feel?
Nice.
Nice. What else?
Bad.
Bad when you're a peacemaker?
No.
Oh, I think you should feel very good. How do you feel?
Happy.
Oh, for sure.
Wasn't happy.
And some of you students are only 3.5. Why do you start them so early, and how do you work with them?
Well, it's been a philosophy of the school since we opened 10 years ago. It's explained to them right from the first day how it works and why it works. And basically, even little ones that young can understand that grown-ups run into problems quite often.
Mm-hmm.
And one day they could be married, they could have a job, and whether you're at work or whether you're at home, grown-ups at times run into problems. So we have to learn from a very young age, how do we solve our problem? So when they start, right from the first day, they may come up to you and, he took the truck, she took the truck, I want this, I want that, and we start right in kindergarten, the other kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Pollock, and myself, by saying to the children, oh, we don't take problems to our teacher. Let us show you how to resolve them yourself. So we have a little corner in each kindergarten where we teach the children, you sit down, usually holding each other's hands like so, and explaining to the other what has hurt your feelings. And the children are taught to sit down, discuss their problems, and try to resolve it to the best of their ability. What happens then is they learn, usually within a few weeks, don't run up to an adult to have an adult to help you. 99% of the time, the children can sit down. They'll go to come up to the teacher, they'll stop halfway, and they'll say, oh, we have to go and solve our own problem.
Oh, it's a wonderful program. Please keep up all the good work.
Thank you very much.
Here are the names of the peacemakers of the week. Quentin Sierra, Stevie Melillo, Joey Panessa, Nicole Scarangilla, Joey Iguano, Ting Wong, Charles Lee, Nina Behringer, Valerie Boostro, and Glenn Gabriel Pillar.
We show you a broken heart to indicate what it is like when we are not peacemakers, and instead we hurt someone by words or by something we do. We now show you a mended heart to illustrate what it is like when we are peacemakers and not hurting, when we are kind and forgiving.
We congratulate all of our peacemakers, and we hope that all of us will be good peacemakers this week.
Here at a school dance contest, little did Nina and Susie know that Priscilla was going to copy their dance.
What are they doing? Wait a minute. Isn't the dance contest today?
All right, who's next?
Oh, she can go first.
Gladly.
Talk it out.
Don't admit it, then.
Wait a minute. Weren't you peacemaker of the week this year?
Yeah.
So why don't you help us solve it? I have an idea. Since we all know the same move, why don't we do it together? That sounds good. It sounds good, but you really did hurt us. Well, I'm sorry. It's just that Mr. Worth was grading us, and we didn't really want to lose
I
that
guess
mark.
we could forgive you. I am peacemaker of the week.
They solved the problem.
John, this school has definitely accepted the challenge of fighting violence through their Peacemakers program. The students are taught techniques to handle conflict right from their very first days here at school, and it becomes a focal point through their school life.
Thanks, Patty.
Nobody's going nowhere.